projecting himself as a good and virginal Mormon man.
I'm going to tie you to a tree and put it in by the way.
What's that?
I'm going to tie you to a tree and put it in your by the way.
Jodi was Travis's dirty little secret.
He wanted me to put pop rocks in my mouth while I gave him oral sex.
From the moment he met Jodi, he was pushing and pushing her to have a sexual relationship with him.
We were looking for a place out in the woods, nature, to somehow carry out this Little Red Riding Hood fantasy.
I'm going to zip tie your arms around the tree, blindfold you, and put the camera on a timer while.
And later in their relationship, Travis would tell her that anal sex really isn't much of a sin compared to vaginal sex.
You cannot say I don't work that booty.
Oh, never mind. You do know how to work the booty.
Behind the smiles in these photographs, there was a whole nother reality for Jodi.
He wanted to drive up to the home, give him oral sex, and he wanted to on my face and then get back in his car and drive away without saying a single word.
It takes creativity to top ourselves.
Oh, it does. We've gotten way creative in the past.
Oh, isn't that cute? Time for the Behavior Bureau, back with my co-host, psychologist Michelle Ward. And tonight we're getting the male point of view of Jodi Arias. Now, warning, this is going to be intentionally an uncensored conversation. Keep in mind, a female panel is standing by watching, and they will respond in the next segment. Male, and Michelle, you're going to have to, you'll be all right. You'll be okay, right? You promise?
I think I can handle it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Joining us, attorney Mark Eiglarsh, Abe Abdelhadi, who had dated Jodi and knew Travis, and TV and radio personality Mike Catherwood. All right, guys. First of all, hi, Mike. How many of you are in a monogamous relationship or married right now?
Me.
Show of hands. Show of hands. Show of hands. Okay, so Abe, you're the single guy.
Yes.
Okay, and Abe, would you have any kind of relationship ongoing right now?
Not exactly, no.
All right, so we're sort of getting the spectrum here. We got old married guy, we got recently married guy. All right, raise your hand now if the last fantasy we heard him talking about with your, this is Abe, you're out of this one, with your spouse, were you to present something like that, would you be kicked to the sofa?
How about if you present it and not get kicked to the sofa?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Would any of us necessarily be? Oh, Mike, you'd be kicked to the sofa?
No, I'd be. Are you kidding me? I'd be praised by my wife.
Right. Okay. So that's the point here. Now, Mike, I'll go to you first.
Yes.
Is this behavior we've heard about in court? Let me phrase it this way. To me, what's deviant about the behavior we've heard in court is that she taped it. That's deviant.
Absolutely. Exactly.
The actual
Absolutely.
behaviors. Mike, do you see any deviant behaviors there?
Absolutely not. You got to understand, when you're in a committed relationship, sex is like a pickup basketball game where you call your own fouls. Everybody kind of knows. You know, there's some unwritten rules, and you kind of got to gauge the scene. Every time you play another game, you figure out what's okay and what's not. And, you know, the farther you push it, it really is decided on the court. Sometimes you're playing with a guy with a bum knee or an old man who used to shoot hoops underhand, and then you know that stuff isn't really open season. But then every once in a while you get a guy who's dunking on you and you realize, I got to go hard in the paint. And that's exactly what was going on in this relationship, Dr. Drew.
Mark, that was a direct attack on you and me.
Can you speak this in English?
Oh,
wow, what a metaphor.
Mike is making perfect sense.
I'm
no,
making
leave him alone.
sports references, which is finally we're able to do that, Dr. Drew, because you actually have some guys on the Behavior Bureau.
Mike is making sense. He's doing the Lord's
Abe,
work.
go
Leave
ahead.
him alone.
Before Mark brings in here,
Mike
maybe
is
tell
making
us.
perfect sense. What Travis and Jodi said on that call was not deviant in the least. It's what two adults choose to engage in. She's no saint, as Mark Eiglarsh said that Socrates said before. She was no abused virgin. And to sit there and say that the park ranger fantasy was awesome, I wish he was still alive. I would get notes from him, God bless his heart. So I have no issue with anything that he did. If this is their idea of deviant, then I'm going straight to hell.
The only problem, Mark, with poor Travis is that it wasn't consistent with his self-concept and his religious beliefs and that sort of thing. So he probably had a lot of conflicted feelings about it.
Absolutely.
So what?
So what?
Drew, so what? He's a victim. Listen, he's not perfect, but this is not about that.
Nope.
Let's just talk about introducing things to a relationship. Let's say you bring this into the relationship, okay?
Ooh.
Are you with me, Drew? And I know you are, because you do the 50
Bravo.
Shades thing. I know you do, right?
Yeah.
You know, What's wrong with that? Again, the whole definition of sexual deviance, apparently, according to Goggle, is so those who seek erotic gratification through means that are considered odd, different, or unacceptable. I don't like the term sexual deviant. There's nothing wrong with it. Different.
Right.
Who's judging the relationship?
That's right.
Whatever happened to spice up your sex life? That's a good thing, as long as you're consenting. And baby, I'll be home in about 40 minutes.
And Mike, if you brought any props with you, please keep them to yourself. Because if Mike and I do a radio show every night called Loveline, check your local listings or go to lovelineshow.com. But I know what Mike is into, and maybe Mike, you could help people understand, as a young male, where that line is with deviant. And again, don't show us any props, please, because I know where you go.
Honestly, I feel like the line is very fluid, pardon the pun, and it changes with each relationship. There's been young ladies where I don't feel like it would necessarily be appropriate to go as severe as Jodi did and Travis did. But then there's certain young ladies, my wife included, hello honey, where you feel like you have a sense of adventure in the relationship. And you know, Jodi made it very clear to Travis that she was a triple threat, if you know what I mean. All 3 ports were open for his young ship to come into shore. And I'm saying, look, you got to explore all of those ports if you're going to give access to it. There's nothing like a sailor on shore leave. Dr. Drew, you know that.
Abe, go ahead.
This plays in, what the defense is doing is playing into the prurient interests of the United States that needs to pull the stick out of their collective asses, because what ends up happening is they sit there and they try to use deviant, and then everyone acts all puritanical, like, oh, I've never done that. I've never thought about tying my spouse or girlfriend up to a tree and doing her on a tree. Oh my God, that's so horrible. He must have been a deviant. Yes, and they all jump on the bandwagon to sit there and say as though that they behave like a bunch of pilgrims. It's insulting to the intelligence.
Drew,
we're adults.
Go ahead, Mark.
What they're doing is they're targeting apparently the few Mormons that are on the jury, and what they're trying to do is devalue his life to somehow make it better for Jodi. I find that to be despicable, and if she's ever going to get the death penalty, that's something that some jurors may take into consideration.
Now, I'm going to give Michelle a chance to ask the panel a question. I've noticed she has clasped her hands together, and she has her legs are tightly crossed, and she has closed her body off to us. Do you have a question for the group?
Well, I don't know if this
Wasn't this an all-guys panel?
It
What
wasn't.
happened? Who
Michelle's
invited
here.
her? What
She's been
happened
very
here?
quietly waiting her turn. Here
well,
we go.
That's,
All right.
I can't figure out if this is the worst day of my life or the best day of my life. First of all, I'm cool with Mike showing his props. Second of all, I want to know, okay, I think of men as the 80-20 rule. Like, you all have some kind of sexual deviance. I know Mark doesn't like that word, but some guys are 80% that, and some guys extreme. Like, you think of it 80% of your day, and other guys, it's 20% of the day. And I don't even think what he's saying is that bad. I'm not saying I engage. I'm not into the forest ranger.
We've heard all about Mike and his wife. That's right. We get,
That's totally cool with me. But I don't even think what they're saying about what Travis said to Jodi is all that horrible compared to what
Here's what's horrible. Their family had to sit through it in a court of law, and they had to live through a private moment with people and have this guy's character assassinated by a defense team who thought they had to do that, and that this crazy woman, let's use a clinical term, this terrible borderline psychopath had recorded this. That's really what this is, and that's why I wanted to bring this.
I don't blame the defense team.
I understand.
I blame Jodi.
Well, okay, fair enough. The defense is doing their job.
She's running the show there, Drew.
And she recorded the tape. Listen, the fact is, this panel on testosterone was to prove a point. Was that all that character assassination is for naught. We have a spectrum of males here of different ages, married and single, and we all exonerate Travis. Yes?
Yes,
for sure.
And you know, the men on the jury will do the same thing.
I think that.